he had sort of a difficult adolescence. His childhood was marred by the death of his mother. His only real memory of her was a sensory one. She used to take him to play in a field near a cookie factory. So when they were together, he smelled cookies, being baked. After she passed, his father was sort of mercurial, and they moved around. He was a professor, and they moved around a lot, chasing different teaching posts. And the only real stability in his adolescence was the times he'd eat with his father, who loved to prepare food or go out to eat. So they'd share meals together on a regular basis. That was sort of the only stability in an otherwise fairly lonely campaign. And it just matters to him. He has this great palate as a result of this. And when he gets to Italy and his palate goes bonkers, he just has to find a way to stay. He's like, I can't go back to America and eat Panera bread. So it's the motivation, right? Food is like basically, there's a heritage aspect to the motivation too, but it's really, the motivation is food and wine.
The sensual aspect is what you're saying, what connects. So you mentioned that you really actually stayed there and that you kind of based it on even the house that you stayed. Are any of the characters from real life?
Well, the main characters, absolutely not. That's always the first question I get. Is this you? And I get why people ask that, but it's not me. My experiences there were never that interesting. If I wrote, if I tried to do an Italian memoir, like an eat, pray, love type thing, it'd be like eat, drink, repeat. And no one wants to read about that. So I made up this character, and I made up his conflicts, and I made up, his background and the things that he'd gone through. But the other characters, the supporting characters, a lot of them are pulled, right out of my experiences there. I have a really hard time once I decide, Dave's going to be my Dave in a book. Right? I can't not be true to Dave. I can't I can't do something to change him. So Dave's like, hey, is that me? And I get sort of on that track. And there's an actual character in the novel. The main character is Jacoby, but his wingman, and probably the most compelling of the supporting characters, in a pretty long cast of supporting characters, is this guy Bill Guyon, who's a Texas expat who's been in Italy forever. And it's actually my friend Bill Guyon. I couldn't even change his last name. I was like, Bill, guy, I'm trying to make a little shade it a little bit. And he's like, don't worry about it. And then he was mad at me. She's like, I never said that. All right. After it came out, he was questioning my interpretation of him. But we're still friends. There's some that are very closely related to people. The love interest painter, Uffizi tour guide is named Helen Dempsey. She's based on the real life Helen Bailey. I got that, yeah, of Florence, a tour guide I know there, and a couple others. It was hard for me to sort of recreate the Italians in my own imagination because they're so authentic and such interesting characters. So it was as close to you getting in trouble for not changing the identities to protect the innocent as I'm ever going to be, but it's very much so.
And sometimes the Italians can almost seem like fictional cartoon characters.
Yeah. I mean, the butchers and the people, they really are so interesting. They didn't need to be fictionalized.
Now you told me about a blogger that you like, Risotto in Steel, Elizabeth Jones. Yeah. She's an American but living in Milan, and she talks about 26 food scenes. Can you explain to us a little bit about what she means by that and what's your favorite?
Yeah, it was really interesting. She read the book and then thought to collaborate by detailing on her blog all the different, just breaking out the food scenes, making like a menu of sorts. And it was really fun to do, and it made me realize, wow, there is a lot of food in this book. I'm trying to think, imagine the overwhelming majority of the narrative involves eating or drinking or pursuing eting and drinking.
So she didn't know you before, she just read the book and then got this idea to take out the 26 food scenes.
Yeah. Which was really fun to do, and the one that I like the best. Did you ask me that? Yeah. My favorite by far was sort of the ultimate food scene in the novel. It's a cinghiale ragu, which is wild boar ragu. Cinghiale is indigenous to Italy, particularly in areas like Tuscany. And the character of Bill, my friend Bill, he's still my friend, was trying to get his hands on a cinghiale to make this big huge feast for the village, for their sagara, for their festival. And no one could find one. And the main character, Jacoby, I won't give it away, comes across one in a very interesting manner and gifts it to Bill. Bill makes the cinghiale. It's a huge hit. They enjoy it with truffles shaved on top. They also found and Brunello di Montalcino. I was like, that's a good. Oh, over fluffy polenta. It's a great meal. So it's wild boar ragu braised down to fork tenders. You blow a rose in it. with black truffles, peppercorns, over fluffy polenta. I'm getting hungry right now. Over fluffy polenta and Brunello de Montalcino. I did it every day.
Did she write actual recipes inspired by some of the scenes?
No, I like basically broke down the scene and then added some narrative context, like a passage from each scene. So there was like who's eating, where are they eating, what are they eating, what are they drinking, and then here's the context of the scene. It was fun.
It's going to motivate you to go shop, to go cook.
Yeah, I know. I think a spin-off cookbook's a good idea.
Yeah, well, or at least maybe something on your website, 1 or 2 recipes
That's a good
that
idea.
you get from different people in Italy. They're always so nice to share their recipes, the Italians. The only thing is, I was sharing with somebody before, because I wrote a cookbook based on Italy, and at first I would just call them and ask for the recipe, and then I would make it, and it didn't taste like what it tasted like at their home or restaurant, and so I'd call them back and say, what did you forget? And invariably, the Italians, I don't know if it's on purpose, I have a feeling it is, they don't put in all of the secrets. And so it doesn't come out the same, let alone that their ingredients are so wonderful over there.
Yeah.
So, but if you watch them, then you say you're going to taste it, then they'll be better for you.
It's a great idea. And one thing that's been really refreshing about this book is that the food industry, the food people and the wine people, the food enthusiasts, the wine enthusiasts, have been so supportive. They're amazing. They're like crazy popular. These Instagram pages are like, I get like 2 likes a week. And these people are cranking up the amount of exposure they get and the share they get and the support of it has been really amazing. I found it to be really a nice benefit of this novel is all the friends I've made in the food lovers world.
Well, it's a great narrative, it's compelling, it's great to read, and then it does, for me, but everything sparks me to want to eat or cook something, so, but this one really, really does. So, now speaking of responses to the book, do you have 1 or 2? Yeah,
but my favorite one, and one I think that seems to be pretty common, is that it makes them hungry. Right? Like, don't read this book if you're hungry. That's sort of that little warning up front, that trigger warning of sorts. The faux trigger warning, I should say. I also love the ones that say that it transports them, that it takes them from on a holiday to Italy, without having to leave the confines of your home or your beach chair or whatever. So it has that sort of transportational aspect to it, which I love. The ability that someone feels like they're there is great. There was I did an interview, a really elongated interview with the Brooklyn Rail, with the poet Ann Camel, who wrote in the intro, and the intro was like probably better than the book. That it was for anyone who loves the streets of Florence and the hills of Tuscany. It's a rare delight to the senses and intellect. The tattoo hurt, getting that, but it was definitely worth it. I'll show you later when we go out at the after party. I'll show it off.
That's so nice.
It hurt.
Now, tell us about your Good Men Project article where you wrote about food equals wellness.
Yeah, I have a regular column on the Good Men Project website, and I write about the columns.
Do you know the Good Men Project? Do you want to just quickly?
It's a website for good men, I guess. I don't know. It's a sort of a progressive men's website that addresses issues relevant to masculinity in the 21st century. It's very progressive. I don't really write about masculinity. I don't know what that is. But I write about food and parenting and music, and I have my own column, and so there's freedom to do what I want there. So I wrote one of the things I wrote recently was about the book and the idea of wellness coming from eating well. So people love to eat, and America's sort of coming around to really appreciating how much value food has in our lives and our quality of our lives. So there's the health aspects that you get from just eating nourishing good food, locally sourced if possible, preparing it yourself. Good ingredients, no preservatives, no sugars, low carbs if you can. Not any particular sort of diet. Less than, I guess, Mediterranean would be my preference, but just like eating, choosing to eat well, portions, I should say, and all those things just make a huge difference in the quality of one's life. But there's also the fact that food is pleasure. I think about food all day long. If I ever wrote a memoir, it'd be called Killing Time Between Meals. I'm so obsessed with my next meal, and because it makes me happy. The things that happen in my head when I'm thinking about food, it's like if I had followers on social media, what that feeling must be like. And it's just something that shouldn't be overlooked because everyone can access it. You can eat well. And certainly people in countries that really cherish food, I know, have longevity. They have quality of life that exceeds ours typically. And I also, while I'm happy to eat by myself, I've had some of the best meals of my life, all by myself. It's always better if I'm with people that I care about. So being with them, I just took my son right here to Peter Luger's for the first time. He'd never been there before. We went there for lunch one day. We had that fat bacon that they broil, right? Too much of that, I think. And we had a juicy steak, right? And it was so much fun. It was pricey, but it was worth it. And it was like I could have, for the same amount of money, I could have taken to see the Nets play with decent tickets. And watching the Nets play is cool, I guess. But we're watching them play. Going to Peter Luger's together, we ate the meal together. We were the participants in the activity, and there's real value in that. We still talk about it. When we're going back to Peter Luger's, when we're going back, it's what it is.
That aged meat really is good.
But it's so good. Wasn't it good?
Very.
Good boy.
Peter Luger next on our list. So,
After party at Peter Luger's? Does the YMCA have a charge card there?
you get a reservation.
True.
So when did this appreciation of food begin?
With my mother. My mother is the daughter of an amazing Italian-American cook, a Sicilian. And my grandmother, we went there every Sunday, and she killed it every Sunday with, we call it Nani's chicken, manicotti, eggplant parm, meatballs, all the traditional Italian stuff. And she was just phenomenal at it.
Do you know what manicotti are? Tell what manicotti are. Sure. Not everybody knows all those
Manicotti, they might call it.
Manicotti.
At the Olive Garden, they call it manicotti. Okay? And it comes with all the breadsticks you can eat. Manicotti, yeah, it's a crepe filled with ricotta cheese and covered in red sauce. My grandmother's just getting hungry.
So you did that traditional Sunday as a get-together time.
Right. My mother grew up in that environment and learned to cook in that environment, but she also was eager to sort of break out of her singular Italian-American identity, and one of the ways she did that was through food. She learned to cook other things besides Italian-American fare, and she liked gourmet stuff. She loved Julia Child and Jacques Pepin, and she gets so excited, pouring through her Bon Appetits and her gourmet magazines, and finding recipes that she could make for us and with her friends. And she'd throw these epic holidays, where people come to our house and stay for days and just eat all day.
Did you have a big family? You have siblings?
Well, I have a sibling. We have a sort of extended family here in New York of my mother's two siblings and all their kids, and my cousins and aunts and uncles and grandparents. And she would also throw these wild dinner parties with stuff that people their minds were blown about what she prepared, and beef Wellingtons and things like that. They're really gourmet and sophisticated. And not only would she be the front of the house and the back of the house. She was the host, right? So she'd buy all the ingredients, make all the food, set all the tables, get the party going, get dressed up really elegantly. My friends in high school used to call her the Italian Jackie O. She was very elegant, and I always think of her as like a Jackie O meets Holly Golightly. Because she was also like the life of the party. She'd host, she'd be going back and forth, and everybody laugh and filling drinks. And it was just amazing how she could pull that off. And I used to help her. I was like her assistant. I would, I'd be with her all day prepping in the kitchen. I'd just go shopping with her. I'd carry all the bags in. And, sometimes at the end of the meals, she'd have me come into the dining room and people would, Andrew was my sous chef, and people would clap. And I really felt, that satisfaction of having made people happy through food. And I think I learned, how to appreciate feeding people, and entertaining people and what a value that is. A few years ago, we were having Thanksgiving at our house. And my friend Kevin, who's here, a lifelong friend, his parents came as well. And I remember I was in the kitchen at the counter in the island with the whole room in front of me. Everybody's talking, all this craziness going on around, and I'm carving the turkey, drinking some wine, taking care of somebody's kid on a chatting with someone up, And Kevin's mom was just looking at me and looking at me and looking. And she walks up, and she goes, "How are you doing all this? How do you know how to do all this at once?" And I said, "My mother." And I learned it from her.
Not everybody can multitask, even a good nonna. That's something. So you're a good cook?
I am.
He's a good cook? What are some of your specialty, your Italian specialty?
I make a mean bucatini alla matriciana.
What is that for those who don't know?
Bucatini alla matriciana bucatini is a pasta with a hole, buco's a hole, mouth. It's from Amatri, that's the town in central Italy. It has at its lesser Italian restaurants. It has pancetta as sort of the base. At the ones I prefer, it has guanciale, which is the jowls of a hog, which are cured, and you sort of make this sauce based out of the rendering of the guanciale. I cook down sweet onions in it. It gets really caramelized. Then you add a little bit of tomato sauce, not like globs of sauce, and then you finish cooking the pasta in the sauce. So the pasta cooks like 3 minutes before al dente. You take it out, put it in there, and it absorbs all that flavor. That's why the bucatini is going on too long, and that's why the bucatini is the perfect noodle for that. And you a little bit of fresh pecorino or parmigiano.
No, but
basil.
I mean, you can take home cooking tips. So what Andrew just said about how you cook the pasta 3 minutes less in the water, that is the biggest takeaway cooking tip. You don't boil it where the package says. You do a little bit less, and then you finish it in the sauce, because that amalgamates everybody. That puts all that gluten and makes it thicker, and also your other point, which is so underscore. Don't drown pasta in sauce. It's not soup. It's a little tiny condiment. You should see the pasta. So 2 good points there.
Thank you.
Now,
Don't throw it against the wall if this seems done.
It's not good. Then throw it against the wall. So did you work in a restaurant?
I worked, when I got to college, I moved out with a couple of friends into a house, and we had to prepare our own food. They quickly realized I knew how to cook. And so we made a deal. They would give me the money to buy the groceries. I'd buy all the groceries and make all our meals. It still wasn't enough for me to survive, so I had to get a job. I got a job washing dishes at a restaurant, and after about a week of washing dishes in the kitchen, they realized through conversation I knew food. So I started working. It was a really nice restaurant. It's the kind of restaurant that people would take their parents to when they came to visit. And I worked there on the line as a lunch chef in the restaurant for a couple of years when I was in college.
Wow. And do you ever think about going back to that, to something to do with food?
I kind of hated it. It was.
Just say you like it.
I like cooking for my friends, cooking for people and family, cooking for people I don't know, right? In a kitchen environment, this is a particularly toxic kitchen environment, but the kitchen environments are tough. There's lots of alcohol drinking, there's lots of bitterness, there's lots of there's warring factions of the waitresses and the chefs and the bus boys and girls. It was tense. It didn't feel like pleasure to me. It felt like work. I liked the time before the restaurant opened. Do all the prep work. I mean, I could trim a filet mignon in about 4 minutes still, because I did so much of that. And pounding the left heel colors to map America. But once the restaurant started and people started coming in and the tension grew and then people were nervous. How many reservations do we have? I need this at table 6. All that stuff doesn't work for me. I mean, I don't have that kind of brain. I don't thrive in that sort of environment, especially when I'm doing something that I'm really into. It kind of spoiled it.
Well, good, because your food writing is too good, so you can't leave that. And what other food writing do you do beside the novels?
Yeah, once I got my chops with writing about food in fiction, I realized that I could do this for magazines and newspapers. So I did a ton of old New York Times column called The Neighborhood Joint. They killed the column. That was like my baby. I think I had like 30 of them. They just called me the king of the neighborhood joint, but it was still active. And almost every single one of my neighborhood joints was a restaurant or a fish market or a butcher shop or a wine store, just because I wanted to tell their stories. So I did a lot of that. I started writing a lot for Men's Journal a couple years ago, and I was doing original recipes, which was really fun. I did some recipes for Relish. I do food stories about characters from the food world, like Dario Cecchini from Tuscany. Yeah,
he's a butcher.
Yeah.
Big character.
Oh, he's my hero, and I wrote about him. So I wrote about the auto grills, those are the eateries over the highway in Italy, which had like the best food. It's like a rest stop with like amazing food. So I started it was easy to do. I mean, I couldn't find enough time to write about all the things I knew about because I just didn't have all that time. But it was great to do. It was really a fun way to sort of get published in other ways. And just novels take a long time from start to finish, and you don't even know what's going to happen at the end. You can't. I know how it's going to end. I mean, is it going to get sold? So it was nice. It was a nice sort of sidetrack to keep writing and about something that I love. Much of the things that happened in this book happened in my journalism. A lot of the adventures or things I'd written about for magazines, I just sort of appropriated into the novel. So it was great practice.
Speaking of getting published, that's incredibly difficult. How did you first get published? Did you have an agent? How did this happen?
I mean, it's really hard. I mean, when people say to me, "I want to be a writer," I say, "Don't," because it's very difficult and getting more and more so. Being in fiction in particular has even become more so. I had an agent. I actually came back to Italy with The Domino Effect done. I got an agent in one day. And about a week later, he said, I have a publisher at Random House wants to publish it.
If anybody is thinking about doing this, that's not a typical story.
Well, it goes south from here, trust me. Believe me. It's one of those, oh, really? Then, oh. I'll get to it. So, then a week later, there's the agent at Random House who wants the exclusive on it, can't move on it, until she decides yes or no. I'm like, all right, this is so easy. Okay? I'm thinking what kind of car I'm going to buy, and where's the second house going to be, and what I'm going to wear to the Pulitzer Prize event. And about 3 months later, I finally hear back from my agent. And waiting is the worst part of Ray. Just waiting for that email or that phone call to say yes. It's a lot of no's. And the wait every day I was checking it. And finally it's like, oh, so and so has left Random House for another publisher. It's not the kind of book they would want there. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to stop doing fiction, and you're on your own. So that was all by myself. It took me.
That's more of the typical story.
Yeah, and I haven't been the same since. And then I was eventually able to find another agent, luckily, but that took much longer. And even with that, it's just a complicated process, especially with fiction, because no one will look at it until you're done. Nonfiction, they will look at your work, your proposal or a sample chapter, and say, yeah, we can work with this. Here's your contract. You have X amount of time to finish it. Fiction is like, no, you write the end, then you start looking for someone to publish it. And it's hard. I'm lucky.
Speaking of food writers, in the beginning you referenced M.K. Fisher.
Yeah.
One of your favorites?
I love her. I mean, when I was in graduate school, we read a really short story by M.F.K. Fisher. She, if you don't know who she is, she's like the world's first food writer. She was writing about food in the 50s and 60s, and even earlier. I just
World War
tomes.
II.
Yeah, there was a World War II story. The name of it
The
is
Wolf.
yeah.
Eat a wolf. Eat a wolf or something?
Yeah, How to Cook a Wolf.
How to Cook a Wolf.
There's a very short story that we read in my graduate program where it was this couple in sequestered in their Paris apartment during World War II, and all they had was tangerines. And what they would do is take the tangerines and peel them really slowly, put the skins and the pulp on the radiator, and let the scent emanate from them. And then, because of the heat on the pulp, when you bit it, it kind of exploded in your mouth, and it was like their sense of pleasure and joy during awful times. Right? And it just resonated with me in such a way that it got my head thinking about writing about food. So she's sort of, the book is prefaced by a quote from her, which I'll read to you. Why not? I have my glasses.
Do you do readings of the books? Have you done some of that around?
Oh yeah, I've done tons.
Do you like doing that?
I love doing that. So I have an awful story to tell you about that. I have so many sad stories, it seems. But I'm so happy. The audiobook just came out. I was just telling the story the other day. The audiobook just came out of the novel.
Who read it?
A wonderful young man from Oklahoma or something. And so I started listening. I didn't know they were doing the audiobook. They pitched it. I knew they were pitching the audiobook. All of a sudden I get this notice hey, your book's available on Audible. I was like, oh, right? I download it, get in the car, start driving, and I'm listening. I'm like, I wouldn't have picked that voice to be the reader. And then he started hitting the Italian words, and I was about to cry. I was about to cry. It was like he was butchering the Italians, and I was like, what? And the worst part is that the word cinghiale, which appears 77 times in the book, I'm guessing, right? He was saying cinghiale. And every time he said cinghiale, I was like I was losing life. Moments of my life were disappearing. Hair, faith in humanity were all going out, and I endured through the whole thing, but it was... Sorry, I digress. Anyway, this is the quote from M.F.K. Fisher, which starts the novels. Our three basic needs for food and security and love are so mixed and mingled and intertwined that we cannot straightly think of one without the others. So this idea that food and security and love are all together, or they're all in siame. And I thought it was a perfect preface to this book.
So what other food-themed novels do you like? Do you have any others to recommend?
Yeah, I mean, you don't see a lot of food novels, and I guess I should be happy about that. Though I love reading them. I love Chocolat was great. Of the narratives, I liked Eat, Pray, Love. I liked the Eat part. I liked Under the Tuscan Sun. which was great. It sort of started my thinking about Italy. I just met Frances Mays a month or two ago and gave her one of my books. She gave me one of hers. It was really quite an honor.
Where did you meet?
This woman named Kathy McCabe has a PBS show called Dream of Italy, and she did a whole special on the Bramasole, the house in Cortona that Frances Mays refurbished with her on, I guess it was 25 years after so the book came out. They did a whole episode based on that. They had a party in New Jersey for the premiere of the program, and I was invited, and I got to meet Frances Mays, which was great. I sat next to her at dinner and drank too much wine. I don't think she knew.
How about other writers, other traditional, any other favorites?
Yeah, in the food, I loved Sideways, which is more of a wine novel than a food novel, but it was great the way they, that sort of chasing after wonderful wines and sort of the snobbery involved in it and the adventure of it. I think, besides the MFK Fisher experience, as a catalyst for my interest in food writing, I think it really goes back to reading Hemingway when I was really pouring through literature. When I was an English major and a graduate, I was reading a lot of Hemingway, and I liked those books very much, the simple prose, but I also loved the way he described food, and across the river into the hills, set in Venice, in the Veneto, and it's just this old American colonel and this young Italian countess just driving around taking meals everywhere, and martini after martini after martini after martini, then bottles and bottles of wine with these really decadent meals. He was describing them very simply, but it was so transformative for me to read that. And then The Sun Also Rises has those great scenes throughout all the bistros in France where they're eating and drinking. But there's this one scene where they were going up to Pamplona for the festival, and they stopped to fish for the day, and they took this picnic lunch with them, and took the wine bottles and tied rope around them and dropped them into the deep part of the river, into the coolest water so they would cool for their lunch. I just thought it was so romantic. And it really sort of, the fascination with food and drink in novels is sort of born there.
How about the world of food celebrities? Any favorites out there?
Yeah, I kind of felt like I learned how to cook in some ways, watching food TV back in the day, watching the people do that, and I'm glad that there are food celebrities, that there's chefs who are recognized for their artistry, and sometimes their humanitarianism and their love of food. Today is Anthony Bourdain Day. It's the day of his birth today. So if you don't know if you're on Twitter, but if you are, you're seeing trending. Not my reading here, but it's Bourdain Day. And so I really liked him. I thought he was a great personality. I didn't so much like the first book he wrote, The Kitchen Confidential, the first memoir. It didn't resonate with me so much, but I ended up learning to really like him because I love the way his shows pursued cuisine as a means of understanding other people. And I fully embrace that idea. You sit down and eat with somebody, you know them differently than you did before. More than playing around a golf or something. You sit and eat with someone, you know them, and and the world's a very small place when you realize we all we all love to eat, and we all have similar recipes. It's risotto here, it's similar there, and there's such commonality in food. And I love that his exploration of that and his how humbled he was by it. I love other food personalities too. I don't tend to like the shows. I love Bonnie Garten, out in Long Island. She's great. I love her cookbooks too. I like Melissa Clark at the Times. But my food hero is definitely Dario Cecchini, the guy I referenced before, the butcher of Panzano. He's just a figure that to me, just embodies what loving food brings to life.
You visited his shop, and could you give us a little bit of insight into his personality? What was it like to spend
I don't want to name drop. We're like friends. Totally friends. I can show you the picture. I have it on my thing. The reason that we're friends is because when we lived in the hills south of Florence, we were in his shop all the time. And he's such a sweet, beautiful man. He's an aficionado of Dante's Inferno. He's the world's most famous butcher. He has this shop in this little town in Chianti Classico country that's open all day long, and there's food out and wine out. So why not stop there every time you're rolling anywhere in the vicinity? And he welcomes, and you're there twice. He remembers you forever. Right? We brought my Aunt Winnie there, my wife's Aunt Winnie there, and she was mesmerized by him, and we were leaving, he goes, "Bye, Winnie," and she was like, he's just also a big, handsome, beautiful man. We were there all the time, and I was just there. We celebrated my 50th birthday at his restaurant last summer, with my whole family, and we were, 15 of us there, I guess. We had some friends with us. He's just a beautiful human being. In that article I wrote for the Good Man Project about food and wellness, he's my example. This person I think that embodies happiness on the purest level that I've ever met is this guy, Dara Giacchini, because he just really enjoys food. He's very sure to not waste anything of his butchering. The product animals are raised humanely and slaughtered humanely, and he just has this joy to him, and that's bigger than life. He was gonna blurb this book, and then I was advised that he wasn't big enough in America yet. And then the show comes out, The Chef's Table, season 6, episode 2, and Dara Giacchini blows up in America. I'm like, damn. So he's more well known now than he was a year ago. But if you ever want to explore this character, you can just Google his name and my name, or go to season 6, episode 2 of A Chef's Table on Netflix.
He's amazing. What about publications, things that you could recommend for people who like food?
I mean, I'm a sucker for food and wine. I've been reading food and wine forever. I love the Times food section. There's so much out there now. It's amazing how many amazing, wonderful food blogs. I've actually had a guest invited tonight who couldn't make it. She fell ill at the last minute, but her name is the girl with the garlic tattoo. And she has a garlic tattoo in her leg. First time we met, she's like, "Look," I'm like, "Oh, garlic tattoo." It's not as good as mine. And she does amazing things. There's so many people out there who have this. As cynical as I get about social media, the fact that it creates this platform for people who are passionate about things to share. There's tons of food bloggers out there that I just sort of skirt around them all.
Why are you down on social media?
Oh, it's like I teach, so I see lots of students who are sort of obsessed with Instagram and their status and the anxiety it induces. I think there's a lot of a lot of wonderful things are inspired by social media. There's also a lot of things that are a little bit less wonderful, bullying, status type stuff. Not stuff we need to talk about tonight.
Good stuff, food stuff, good yummy stuff. Let's talk about what you're working on now.
Oh, that's good too. I am working on. I finished a sequel to the noir Attleboro Blues, which I need to do. So the second book was Attleboro Blues, A Brooklyn Mystery, which was just translated into Italian, by the way. I know, this is coming out.
That's so cool.
I know, it's very cool. I mean, the fact this happened and I see the book and the passage of it in Italian, I'm still waiting on my copies. It just came out.
And the Italians love when we do anything. They so support. They're so excited when an American likes them.
I'm going to be big in Italy.
You're going to be so big in Italy.
Really big, really big. So that's out. The sequel to Attleboro Blues is called Black Irish Blues. It takes our character and it extends his adventure. And it's finished. I'm sort of working with some folks on polishing it, and hopefully that will be published. And I have another project in mind, some sort of kind of memoir related that I'm going to hopefully get started on soon.
So a sequel to Cucina Tipica?
Oh, that's definitely in the works if it's justified. You have to sort of reach a certain level of penetration before a sequel is warranted. I'd love it, and I already know the whole story. It would be Cucina Romana, another Italian adventure. So it'd take place in Rome, where Jacoby and Bill would go down to Rome, and I have this whole thing worked out. It's not Da Vinci Code, but it's good.
You spend time in Florence, you get a book. Time in Rome, you get a book.
Then there'll be Venice. I think if all 20 regions, I think I could. That'd be great. I'll die happy.
That would be very nice.
Yeah.
How about book club appearances?
I'm readily available.
Anybody have a book club? We can have this wonderful man and recipes.
I'll come over. I'll cook. The hard part is getting to leave.
You have to do eat the book. You know that?
No.
Eat the book. I'll put you in touch.
Oh,
It'd
please.
be so great. Yeah.
It sounds
absolutely. Good. What about future presentations? Where are you going to be?
I'm sort of finishing up the promotion of this book. It came out in October. We had a huge party at a music venue in Brooklyn. My dear friend Beth Smith played the event with her full band, this amazing soul singer. That's why everybody came. I'd never had a bigger crowd in my life. I'm like, what's going on here? Oh, I got a star performing there. That was great. It was one of the best nights of my life. I did some smaller readings. I maybe have a Brooklyn Public Library event coming up, but the next big thing for me is the Brooklyn Book Festival in September. I actually have 2 events for that. One is we call a bookend event. So prior to the Brooklyn Book Festival, they have single events during the weeknight. and I'm going to go to this restaurant in Fort Greene called Dino, which is an Italian restaurant, and they're going to prepare a menu based on the cuisine from the book, and I'll do some readings, and we'll have like a price fix and a reading and an eat along at restaurant Dino in
Are we
Fort
all
Greene.
there? Are we all going? Is that like sounding so good?
It's gonna be great, and they actually have cinghiale ragu on their menu.
Nice.
So
Ooh.
we're gonna kill it. I gotta get the truffles.
Ooh, black truffle?
Yeah, well, I'd prefer white, but.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's too delicate
It
for
wouldn't go with
cinghiale.
you.
It wouldn't go.
And then I'll be at the actual Brooklyn Book Festival itself on a panel. I don't know what panel I'm at yet, but it'll be on Sunday, the 22nd of September. The Brooklyn Book Festival is awesome. It's the
Has
biggest.
anybody gone?
It's the biggest festival in the Northeast. It's
Because
really
it's
well run.
fun to, even if you're, just interested in anything on a page, really, really fun to go.
Yeah, I don't know where they're gonna posit this book amongst other ones, but I'll be there.
And so how do people stay in touch with you?
Call me.
On how can we follow you on the horrible social media? I like social media. I find that it's a really fun way to stay in touch with people.
I
That
know.
it's not like you're gonna call me and tell me what you're doing, but I can. Oh, I see it. Oh, there, Andrew's doing that. That's nice.
I love that part of it too. It's if someone saying you're stupid, you should never write another book in your life. That part about I can do. No one says it to you. They say it to me. So I'm Andrew Cotto at everything. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Everyone here in this room follow me. You double my following.
Everybody follow.
It's just a pity follow. But I don't have the luxury of being exclusive, but even if I did, I would never be. I love, meeting new people. One of the best things about being a teacher and about being a writer is you get to go out and meet new people and engage them. And anybody who's ever written me, I write them back. When everyone wants me to, send them a book or whatever, I'm always happy. I'm probably the most outgoing author ever.
Well, you see that from the book too. You get sort of inspired to think about your own past, to delve in. I think it really is very opening. It's just really a very inspiring novel, and so
Agreed.
congratulations. And so we should all get many copies.
Thank you. Thank you.
When are you going to next be in Italy?
Oh, I'm going to Venice in end of August. I'm going to write a story for the New York Times about this really interesting relationship between the fire department of New York and some of the noble families of Venice. And they invited me to cover this regatta they have. And I'm going to go for 4 nights in Venice and also do some promotions of, I think, I'll do some Italian promotion of the translation and hopefully have an event for this too that I'm not sure my brain can handle all that. Reading in Italian, then reading in English. I might fall over.
Can you speak Italian?
Yeah.
So you can read it in Italian?
Oh, definitely.
They're going to go crazy. They love this. They love it.
I did an interview promoting the Italian translation with the Italian teacher at my college, and we filmed it, in the studio we have there, and it looks really good. He was talking to me in Italian so fast. I knew the questions ahead of time, so I was just nodding along and be like, oh. I have no idea what he's saying. So I can. The words can come out.
You can say your answer back.
Yeah, when they're coming in, it's a little bit harder for me because it's so fast, and I'm thinking about dinner.
Yeah. So let's talk for a little minute about some, for us who are going to go visit Italy, and even for us who want to have something Italian here in the New York area. So in Florence, you spent a year there. Do you have any tips? Is anybody thinking about going to Florence? What's 1 or 2 tips for Florence?
Well, I love, there's a place in sort of the outskirts of the city called Il Teatro del Sale. It's owned by Fabio Picchi. It's in the book.
Il Teatro del Sale, the theater of salt.
Yeah, it's like a weird sort of amalgam of different things. It's like a cabaret, commissary. They have you buy membership to it, and then it's really cheap. And then you can go there anytime you want for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And the meals themselves are actually buffet style, which the Italians don't do buffet. So watch out for the Italians in the buffet line too. They're going to run you over. But if you can get there during a time when it's not so crowded, you get all this different tastes from the restaurant owned also by Fabio Picchi called Cibreo, which is like the best restaurant in Florence. So they're making, a lot of the ingredients, all that they're procuring is coming from Cibreo, but they're making it across the street, and it's really, really affordable and fun. It's called Il Teatro del Sale. It's in the book.
Teatro del Sale. Sale.
It's also, I wrote an
Theater
article
of
about
Salt.
it for Men's Journal too, so you know.
Teatro del Sale. So, this is a really funny coincidence. Fabio Picchi is one of my best friends. I just came back last night, and I was just trying to show you the picture. He came to my house with this box of jars. He's launched a line of food so we can have like a little taste of Italy here. Hopefully it'll come to America, but he's amazing. Yeah, he did cibo,
Yeah.
C.bio. If you Google it, you'll see, or it's on social media. It's this grocery store in Florence that's phenomenal, and he is got such a refined palate and so wonderful of what he picks. So I totally agree with that. It's a great insider tip, this place, because you really will feel like you're eating with other Italians. There's hardly any Americans that go there.
None.
Did you ever go when his wife was performing afterward?
They're both in the novel. So there's a whole scene at Il Teatro del Sale where they go to the theater because they think that Maria might know the secret they're trying to find. I don't want to give it away. But his wife, Maria Cassi, is a comedian and performer, and she has her theater there that she performs. You eat the buffet dinner, and then there's a performance. Oftentimes it's her. It's amazing. So we had one night there where they had us in a special VIP seat, and a friend of mine from Rome, and Bill ate there, and then we stuck around and watched Maria's show, and then afterward we stuck around. We ate this cheese that he found, like, you know, in a cave, you know, somewhere in the mountains. And they found this, you know, aged Parmesan that was like gold. It was like speckled with gold and the crunchy. And they brought it out. We dipped it in balsamic. It was great. Yeah.
It's like 30 euros for the dinner, the wine, dessert, the show. It's like the best bargain of Florence. What else in Florence? One more thing.
In the city itself, I this is sort of in every tourist book, but I really like Mario's, the place they have, Bistecca Fiorentina, over by the Mercato Centrale. It's a great place for lunch. They have beautiful Bistecca Fiorentina. I'm also a sucker for everything on the other side of the river. You're trying to avoid the crowds. You go to Oltre Arno, Santo Spirito, that Cordiere has really great places to eat and lace shops and great places without all the people following someone carrying an umbrella. Because, you know, the tourism in Florence is becoming a problem, like it is in a lot of the Italian cities.
What about they're trying to ban not eating panini on the steps, because there's a very famous panini shop there that's like TripAdvisor #1 in the world.
I wrote about it for the journal.
And there's
it's my fault.
You made it popular. There's a pop-up of it here in New York until July 13th.
No.
Yep. Antico Vinaio. It's this panini place, and it's popped up downtown near Union Square till July 13th. It's amazing stuff. So what about here in New York? What are some ways to get your Italian fix?
Come to my house.
Okay. After this, there's an Uber line.
We just redid our kitchen in a new place we bought, and I feel like I just got a puppy. It's a beautiful new kitchen. It was just done yesterday, and I sat there all day today on the floor, just touching, and like I just feel reborn. I mean, I love the Italian food in New York. You know, the restaurants, some of the old school places. Some of the new school places. Every time I go eat at one of them, I feel like I could have done this at home. I really do prefer cooking at home than going out.
Me too. So what about, where can you buy some good ingredients here in the New York area? Where do you get good stuff?
There's a great butcher shop in Brooklyn called Romeo Brothers, out in, I guess, like Bensonhurst, that provides most of the other butcher shops in the city with their meat, and it's so affordable to go in there. They have amazing meats. Italy's got a lot of good stuff you can't get elsewhere. Some cheeses and things you can't get. I mean,
everybody knows the Italy's, the 123rd Street in downtown.
I mean, I'm a big advocate of just finding the place closest to you where you can get fresh ingredients. I mean, you can get really quality Italian stuff in the city. It's just, you know, a matter of you know, whatever is closest to you, because, you know, going out of your way to procure these things kind of takes away part of what I feel is the magic of it, which is like stopping on your way home from the subway and getting the best stuff you can get and then going home and making it. You know, I'm not a big food like adventurer.
Schlepper.
Yeah,
no schlepping. No schlepping. What about Rome? So you spend time in Rome. Do we have a hint of what to do for any of us who might be going to Rome?
I oftentimes I feel like I get these questions. I think there's other people who are experts. There's like, you know, the Roman food guy has this blog. He's the Roman food guy, You know, and his blog has more stuff than I could tell you.
But that's a good hint. Now
Yeah.
we know the Roman food guy,
Yeah.
so we can look that up when we're going to go to Rome.
But that said, my buddy Bill, from the novel, his favorite restaurant in Rome is Trattoria Moderna. The chef's actually Romanian, and he puts a twist on it. He's able to break away from the classic Roman trattoria fare, and he does it in a way that's really inventive. He's an interesting, dynamic, charismatic character, and his restaurant is right near Campo de Fiore, right on the corner from there. And I've eaten there. You know, I've had 25 meals in Rome. I've eaten there.
What's the blog called?
The restaurant's called Trattoria Moderna. The blog is called The Roman Food Guy. I mean,
So you know the girl in Florence? That blog?
yeah, she's my friend.
She's so great.
Yeah, Nardia.
No,
Oh,
Georgette.
Georgette Juppe. Yeah, there's Lost in
Italy
Florence and
magazine.
Girl in Florence. Yeah.
So that's a girl in Florence is very
Those are
good
great
too.
blogs too. So if you go to Florence, there's two great blogs. Girl in Florence and Lost in Florence have everything. They're expert. In fact, Nardi just had a book published about her blog, so all the blog posts were compiled into it. Where to eat. She also knows where to shop and where to get lace. I don't know none of that. I know where to eat.
You don't need lace every week or two?
I eat it.
No. Maybe you could strain something. So we're out of time, but I wanted to leave 1 or 2 minutes for any questions from the audience. Anything that we didn't cover? Yes. Yes.
Laura.
Hi.
We went to private school together 25 years ago.
I was going to say
I like her.
Plus 10.
She was in
She's like
elementary
Doogie
school.
Howser. She was like a Doogie Howser.
She was
of the
in
private
elementary school when you were in high school.
Yeah. What's the question?
Yes.
Not that I've ruined it for you.
The question is, as a graduate of the boarding school that you based your novel of fiction on, or
The domino effect, yeah.
Yes, the domino, yes. And I'm also a graduate of that boarding school 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Congratulations.
And also, I also attended the CIA.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Pastry chef. I can't understand at all how the food at our boarding school is inspiring. How is it inspiring? I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you because I want to hear your views.
Okay, so that's really actually a fun part of the novel is that when the kid gets to boarding school, he's devastated by how bad the food is. He misses his home in Queens, and it is a big part of who's complaining. In fact, he says like they have lasagna homemade by the fine chefs at the what's that? Who makes the frozen? Stouffer's Corporation. It's a reference to everything about the. In fact, one of the last lines in the novel is that he loved everything about it except the food. Happy?
So it was not inspiring.
We ate every night at tables.
Yeah.
We had to dress up, and guys had to wear ties, women's dresses were stripped. And I thought maybe it was just the fellowship of being at a table.
No, it was awful.
Do you like that idea of dressing up to have a meal?
I do. I dressed up to come here.
I got the
I
shirt
do
for dinner.
too.
Good.
You had a question? Yes.
Wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Inspiring. Can't wait to read it.
Great.
Can you talk a little bit about the cover and about the covers of your other book?
Sure. The cover here, it's right there. The cover is, I'll say it again, a cingale, right? And I thought that cingale are indigenous to Tuscany, and it felt like it sort of spoke to a lot of the narratives symbolically, of the regional symbolism. There's an actual cingale in the book. I won't give away I won't spoil it, but the cingale plays a pretty important narrative role, and then they eat it.
So did you look at a lot of pictures of them and pick this one?
Well, that one is a little less fierce than I was after. This one looks kind of cuddly.
Did you suggest this cover?
I did. It was my idea. They sent me the cover they wanted. It was like, it looked like a menu. It had like tomatoes and mozzarella. I'm like, no. No, it's not a cookbook. So I came up with this idea, and I kind of went with, I didn't want to be like, oh, that's not the cingale I wanted. It would be too picky. My cingale has 3 tusks, and it's just, it's certainly they're wild beasts. They forage at night for truffles, and they'll take acorns on bad days, but they're ferocious, right? You come across one, they're going to come at you. I'm not giving too much away. They're very scary,
Scary.
but they're fun to eat.
There's another question. Yes.
When Katrina Topeka becomes a movie,
Yeah.
what actor should we expect you might show?
That's a great question. If I knew any actors below the age of 50, I'd be happy to tell you. A young Ralph Macchio? I don't know any actors. There's some guy named Kyle or something. I don't know. It's actually a big fault of mine. I'm supposed to have that answer at the ready, right? And they say one of the ways you can get your books made into film is if you can get some actor or actress interested in it. You make it a project that they're behind. And I just can't seem to figure out anyone that works. And one of the Avengers?
Leo.
They're too old, aren't they?
Well, Leo.
Yeah, that's a private joke.
Is there talk about a movie?
No.
We're talking
We're
about
talking
it.
about it.
You
There
is
have to
now.
say
There is.
yes.
I mean, well, there's some yeah, it's trending right next to. Then there's been some conversations about. I have an agency in LA that represents some TV projects I've written, and this is just my luck, right? I sent it to the guys. I love the book. I can't represent it because my wife is writing a TV show set in Tuscany. Sorry. It's like that first agent thing I had. So I don't have another access to the Hollywood world. So the publisher has some sort of relationship with somebody. If I fill out this form, it's like 15 pages. All these questions, they can submit it for like Netflix consideration. I'd rather see a nonfiction show sort of inspired by the book. Well, I want to see the movie too, don't get me wrong. Right? After the movie comes out, I'd like to make a program, with Netflix or something, going to all the places where the book, going to see, Maria and Fabio, going to see Dario, going to the places in the book. That would be good too. I'm free.
Once they make the movie, they call it set jetting. Did you hear that expression?
No.
Set jetting is when you go to the location of that you see in a movie. Set jetting.
I want a set jet.
I'm going to set jet.
Yeah.
So just all set jet to Tuscany.
Okay. Field trip.
Last question. Last question. No. Well, thank you so
Thank you.
much for this fantastic taste of